Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pipeline, the show where we get to interview creative and innovative people and learn about some of their projects. On this episode, my guest is Restauranteur Philipp Sitter of the Kings Group. Philip, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Scott. Happy to be here on Cinco de Mayo.
Yes. Salud, brother.
Yeah, and so we'll say prost here as well.
Prost.
My wife made a Terramana margarita.
Nice. And how is your family during this time? How you guys doing?
Yeah, I mean, we're grateful. We're doing really well as far as our health goes. You know, we're all in the hospitality industry, so obviously the industry itself has taken a big hit, especially the hospitality industry. Lots of industries, but especially hospitality. So, we've got our health, and we were able to secure some PPP loans, and that was a bit of a process. And we're able to retain all of our salary managers, some of our key employees. And then we were able to have one-on-one discussions with our front of house staff, and everybody's taken care of. The good thing about the front of house staff, especially, is the unemployment programs are fantastic for them. And, we're happy to get them back to work now since we just reopened at the 25% occupancy. But overall, everyone was taken care of, and we feel like we'll make it through.
That's awesome to hear. It's strange times, and everybody's adapting. So I'm glad everybody on your end is healthy and, making the best of it.
Right.
So as we talked about this program, it's called Pipeline because we talk about projects, basically. Right. Projects that creative and innovative people such as yourself are working on. So I'll just jump in. First question is, what's a project in the last 5 or 10 years that you found challenging or that you were really proud of, and some of the story behind that?
Yeah, I'll give you a good one. So Egg House Gourmet is our breakfast restaurant in the Heights. And we started, as you're very familiar with, right? We started King's Beer Garden in 2011. I'm a fifth generation restaurateur, and we opened up our sister concept, King's Beer House, in 2017. And what's funny about Egg House is how it started. And the way it started, as you also know, is we started with an idea of a kolache pop-up. And I'll rewind the story a little bit. And the way the kolache pop-up happened is, during our employee staff meetings, what we would do is we would bring Shipley's donuts and kolaches, right? And I used to be absolutely addicted as a kid going through junior high school. I would get a jalapeno kolache and a donut. So it was very nostalgic, right? And I hadn't had them in a long, long time. But I also know, from my heritage and from being in the hospitality industry, what really good sausage and cheese tastes like. So, go to this meeting. It's probably around 2016, 17. And we're, bought the kolaches, we're bringing them out. And this time I was like, you know what, I'll try one. And keep in mind, it's been years since I've tried a kolache from Shipley's or a donut. So I get the jalapeno kolache, I bite into it, and I think it's awful. I just think it's absolutely awful, right? And I used to be addicted to these. I loved them every day, every single day in junior high school. I would go.
Where did you, when you were in junior high school, where were you living, and where did you get them? So that must have informed your taste for them.
Yeah. So I went to a private school out of Alvin called Livingstone's Christian School for a few years, and there was a Shipley's on the way, and every day that was the breakfast: jalapeno kolache, and donut and a milk, and that was it every single day. I mean, for breakfast, me and a lot of people are creature of habits. I can eat the same thing over and over and over again. My wife thinks I'm nuts because now, I drink like a green drink. I eat sardines. I make a tuna dish. I eat salmon. All these really weird things to her for breakfast. And I utilize breakfast as fuel for the day. So I'm eating like a can of natural sardines, and she just thinks I'm nuts. But anyways, so I have this jalapeno kolache, and I bite into it, and I'm just like, well, this is not good. We have sausages, we have great cheese. Surely it's not difficult to make a kolache, right? Like, I've never made one before, but I was like, surely it can't be difficult. You know what? Let's give it a try, right? And so fast forward, I tell Jeanette, my wife, who's also our culinary director, I tell her, hey, look, I want you to make kolaches with our sausages. And she's like, Philip, one problem. I've never baked before. I haven't baked anything ever before. She's done everything else in the kitchen. She's never baked anything. She was completely scared, right? But I always do a really good job and leadership on this part, where I put people to their maximum threshold, right? Is I take people to their comfort zone and then I throw them over the edge and they get into the river and they have to learn to swim, right? It's how I've been raised, and it's what I do with my people, right? It's like we all think we're capable of something, and then you have to have that person. Like there's many people in my life that brought me to that next level by believing in me, and I try to pass that on to the people that I work with, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'm sure you'll figure out how to make one. Let's go ahead and put it on Facebook that we're doing a kolache pop-up. And keep in mind, she hasn't made one, okay? Let's put it on Facebook events and at least see if there's any interest, because we don't want to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, make kolaches, and no one's going to buy it.
Right.
I post the Facebook event, and then 10 minutes later, right, we're at like 500 people interested. The next day, we're at 1,800 people interested. And
wow.
the event is, I mean, it's the busiest Facebook event as far as interest we've ever seen. So my wife at that point, she was just like, what on earth are we going to do? I've never made these kolaches, and we have all these people interested. Look, you needed a little pressure. You got a little pressure. Now we'll figure it out, right? So needless to say, she figured it out. And my idea at that time for her first pop-up was, okay, people are going to come in waves every hour. Let's bake a couple hundred, right? Well, we get there, right? She gets there with her team around 2 o'clock in the morning, right? I get there around 5 or 6 o'clock. I think the pop-up's at 9. By the time 8 o'clock happens, we must have had 150, 200 people in line.
Whoa.
I go back inside and I go, Jeanette, bake everything. Bake everything. And so the people are in line, totally underprepared. We sell out within minutes, right? There's 200, 300, 400 people, whatever it was. It went all the way, our parking lot, our parking lot, it's, it's size a little bigger than a football field. And they're all the way down the football field, the parking lot, to the Chinese restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So it was nuts. And we sold out within the first 50 people, right? Because then people are buying dozens, so forth and so on. And then I tell my dad, I'm like, you got to go tell everyone we sold out. And he's like, no, I'm not telling them nothing. and then we convinced our general manager, Justin, to go out and do it. And he did it. And people were actually really kind to us. They said, oh, no problem. We'll get here earlier next time. And so that's what started our kolache pop-ups. And then what we did is we did those every few months until we really figured it out. And the idea and the concept was King's Kolache House. That's what we were going to do. That was our breakfast concept that we created. It was King's Kolache House. And we were set on that, right? So we were set, okay, we're going to do King's Kolache House right next to King's Beer House. And then I went to Vegas and then went to LA, and something hit me, just like a beam of inspiration. Like I was like, King's Kolache House, we can't just do kolaches, right? It's like kolaches have been done before. I don't want to just be a kolache place, because we were also thinking about doing egg sandwiches. We were also thinking about doing breakfast tacos. I was like, okay, if we do King's Kolache House, people are going to think of us for kolaches. They're not going to take our tacos seriously. They're not going to take our egg sandwiches seriously. And so we were like, okay, well, we're going to do more than just kolaches. And then it was King's Kolache House, but had more stuff on it, right? Then I go to LA with my wife, and we go to a coffee place called Alfred's. And it's very, very popular in LA and the surrounding areas. And it outcompetes Starbucks in a major way. But it's a local coffee shop. So we're looking at the cup, and we're walking down Beverly Hills, and it's a pink cup, and Jeanette feels pretty with it. And, she loves the design. And I'm thinking, if I have a cup in my hand right now and it says King's Kolache House and it has our little logo on it, how would I feel as a woman? How would I feel as though that, like, this is something I want to take a photo of? Would I feel pretty? Would I feel, that I identified with this? Because a lot of business is identity, right? If you go to a pub, it needs to skew towards the masculine, right? Because that's mostly the diner, right? And so I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because number one, the tacos and the egg sandwiches may not sell as well as we're hoping, because they were so good. We were making them and we're like, oh my God, these are better than the kolaches. right? And they were so visual. If you go to our website or go to our restaurant and look at Egg House, you know, for those who are watching, have never been there, go look at our Instagram at Egg House, EGGHAUS. Everything we do is so visual. A lot of people think we're an Instagram concept. They come and try it, and then they just eat it over and over again. It's our best performing concept per square foot. And I was thinking, and I was like, you're right. We cannot call this King's Kolache House. And keep in mind, I already have the loan approved for the concept King's Kolache House. I already have the logos, the design, the architectural renderings, everything ready for King's Kolache House. All I was doing was taking a vacation before we start building. Okay. I stop everything. I call my dad and I tell him we're not going to be King's Kolache House. I have to redesign the entire concept. I don't know what the name's going to be, but it's not going to be King's Kolache House. It's not going to, like, I tell him all these things. And actually, and I was like having a pep talk with, my dad's my partner in the restaurants. You know, I was having a pep talk with Jeanette. I was like, oh my God, he's going to freak out. And he was actually very receptive to it, which was surprising. And I call my creative director and I tell him, hey, we're coming up with a different concept. It's got to be light. It's got to be bright. And he's like, oh, thank God. I didn't want to do the Kolache House. And so, you know, that's how the Egg House Gourmet concept was born. And again, we were right there. We were right there. Everything. I was worried about even telling my bank, you know, because King's was already a proven concept in their eyes. So I come up with like, you know, a wild hair. I come up with this brand new concept, the brand new name, the brand new design. We're already paying for architects. We're already paying for interior design. And ultimately, it was the very best thing we could have ever done. Egg House Gourmet is a fantastic brand. You know, my worry and what I told the bank is, look, the issue is people are going to go to King's Beer Garden at night or King's Beer House at night, and they're not going to come to King's in the morning because you don't go to the same place you go to dinner and they're going to associate both with it, right? I mean, the concepts are right next door to each other.
Yeah.
And Egg House Gourmet is a totally different demographic. It's a wild success. We're looking to expand it. We've had about a couple offers, 2 or 3 offers to buy out the concept. Wow. You know, it really is an incredible, beautiful concept that we believe is our biggest and best concept to date and the most scalable for sure. And, you know, it's a lot different of a business model, a more profitable business model. And, you know, we're really excited about that concept. So that's the story, you know.
Yeah. It's a great story. I mean, when you were walking down the street and you knew you had to change the concept, were you anxious at all, or were you just like, I'm confident that this needs to happen, or how were you feeling?
You know, I wouldn't give it the word confidence. I would give it the word that, you know, really speaks to me is intuition. And a lot of times in my life, I just have learned to listen to my intuition. And it has nothing to do about confidence, you know, because I believe confidence is more driven from an ego sense, and not in a negative way, because confidence is confidence. But I do believe in intuition. And for some reason, that when I come with certain ideas or certain things, it just speaks to me so clearly that I don't question it, that I live and die by that, right? It's just like, at that point, I don't care if it's a success or failure. I believe that's the right thing to do because my intuition just going off like crazy. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try this. And it's never led me wrong till date. So, you know, it's been a beautiful thing. And I've only just tried to tap into more of that.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know the backstory to that. So that's very cool. So that's a past project that's ongoing. And, I have to say, I love it. I love both. I love that they're next door.
And they're very different.
They are. They are. So what is a current project? You know, it could be that. It could be, so I know you've got a place now in, is it Webster?
We have a restaurant in League City. Yeah.
League City. Yeah. So, you know, what's a current project? And it may not even, I don't know, maybe something else that you're working on that you're really having a good time with.
So what we did a few years ago, again, with testing through our brand, is I created, a lot of people don't know this because this is, you know, a different industry entirely. I created, and already have 8 employees that work there. We created a technology company called VIP Insiders. And VIP Insiders is a software as a subscription company where we build loyalty and rewards platforms like a Starbucks Rewards for the restaurant industry, specifically the full service restaurant industry nationally. So we have a little over 80 clients. We're almost a year old. In September, our technology will be a year old. And we span from Texas to Florida to Pennsylvania, and we're really just getting started. And that's been, you know, quote unquote, my calling when it comes to restaurants, because I've always been really involved in the marketing and branding of restaurants, and, you know, taking technology and making like a Starbucks Rewards type of platform for local and independent restaurants, making it affordable for them, and using the best marketing practices that are all automatically generated for them, because I know how hard it is. You know, restaurant owners don't have the time to do their marketing. And we've developed, you know, beautiful technology that works seamlessly. And we, you know, started at our restaurants, it worked, and then we started expanding. And really that's where major my focus is right now, is building and scaling and growing that. We hope to be at 1,000 restaurants in the next year, and, you know, expanding from there into small businesses. But we're starting with restaurants first.
So is the tool, the app, is it similar to the King's Reward, the Insiders Reward app?
King's has one that's a subscription model.
Right.
You know, you buy, you know, they're $8, $10, and $12 a month, kind of like a Netflix for restaurants. And there's another one called King's Rewards, which is based on, you know, how often you check in. So the one that I'm talking about is that's all VIP Insiders technology, you know, our tech company's technology, but we chose to scale the second one for checking in.
Okay.
So we chose to scale that one because the subscription one worked, but it didn't work every time, right? So we had about 10 clients, and about 4 of them were successful and 6 of them were not, you know, with getting people to sign up. And our other, you know, our other VIP Insiders, out of 80 people, we haven't had a single person to cancel. We've generated in the last 6 months, 1.7 million for those restaurants. And we've taken it to the level of extreme testimonials and expansion and everything else. And of course, this COVID-19 puts a little damper on it, but we're using that time to, you know, for development and for, you know, future feature build out. So that's been totally different. Again, had absolutely, just like the kolaches, I thought it was so easy, right? I was like, it's so easy. And, you know, kolaches are hard. Like, you'd be really surprised how hard they are. You'd be very surprised how early you have to wake up and how painstaking they are. You know, when we did brunch in the restaurant, I was like, cooking an egg. I mean, it's not, of course. I mean, the cooks can cook an egg. Brunch is hard. And technology, you know, technology, learning a whole new industry, software subscription model, and then understanding, you know, all the nuances of it, and then understanding how to develop a sales organization. Really, I'm not using any of my hospitality background for that. I just understand how to market towards them. And so that's been an interesting learning curve, but it's gone well, and we're excited to see where it goes in the next few years. Nice.
I didn't know your group was behind that. That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
How did you get interested in that?
So I was just, you know, we have a Stein Club for years, and I think you're a member of Stein Club, or you became a member when you proposed. I think I gave you one, or one or the other. But you know, what happened is we started getting Stein Club members, and it was so hard to keep up with them because it was all, you sign on a paper form, it's an Excel document, but, you know, it was just a mess all the time. And I was like, well, you know, I'm sure other restaurants want to have a club. They want to have loyalty. They want to do these sort of things. But the difficulty is managing all of it. And so I just got interested, and I just started solving piece by piece. And I kind of created, with my co-founder, who's our creative director, we created a skeleton of what we wanted and, you know, what we thought the future was for restaurants. And a lot of that future is text message marketing and kind of more direct marketing rather than just, you know, promoting on social media, because it's just, the landscape itself is changing so much that small businesses, especially like myself, are having difficulty with how much money you have to spend on social media to get your message heard. And so I just saw that. And, you know, what we did is we break it down to small issues, which the first thing was put it on a Word document, what the business idea is. And the second thing was we launched to all of our, you may remember getting the email, we launched to all of our customers, would you be interested if we built something like this? And we had a little over 800 people say, yes, if you were to present something like this to me, I would want to buy it, right? Like as far as I would want to sign up for it. And so 800 people, I was like, okay, well, you know, if 800 people say they want to do it, let's do it, right? And so it was a lot of learning, and we used a company to start building it. And then I realized, you know, we were their 100th project and not their first project. So I hired my own development team. You know, we learned all the different terminology and understanding how to manage developers and software developers. And I brought them all together with my co-founder, and we started building software. And it was a learning curve. But I mean, it really didn't seem like it was a learning curve, but on the background, I was working, you know, 60 hours in the restaurant and 80 hours a week on the technology, you know. So I get up at 4:30, and I'm, you know, doing it till 10 a.m. or excuse me, the 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m., all while when my wife's pregnant. But, you know, I saw it in a way for me, and as a way out of the restaurant industry, and not in the way like I'm unhappy in the restaurant industry, but the restaurant industry in itself, there's a few factors that I don't like about that. And the few factors are, number one, you work all day and you're always on call, right? Like it's very hard for any of my management or myself as an owner to have any family time at all, because the fryer breaks, it's an industry that you have to, it's like you commit your entire life to it, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is it's a very low margin industry, right? So when you're spending $100 at a bar or restaurant, they're not getting in $100, you know, they're lucky to get between $5 and $11, right? And so it's a lot of work for not a lot of money. And then also you have a lot of overhead, right? My restaurants cost anywhere between 2.5, if it's a conversion, to $5 million to build. Well, you have to do a lot of volume, right? My dad's had over 26 restaurants. Not all those have been successes. And, you know, as my wife, you know, we realized that we were having a daughter, I started thinking about, I was like, hey, I don't just want to be in the restaurant industry, right? I need to diversify a little bit because, you know, number one, I want to be there for my family. But number two, I want to not all have my eggs in one basket, right? And so I started thinking about that. And that's when I started building that. And, you know, there's a few things about that I don't want to just be all in one industry. And the technology industry is kind of the ultimate opposite of that, right? We built a product. I spent a bunch of money doing it one time, but it's insanely profitable. You know, it's unlike any other margin business. So at scale, it'll do really well. And that, you know, in that sort of company, I work 9 to 5, you know, and on the weekends, there are plenty of weekends, there's plenty of days. And so having that balance really, my daughter really inspired me to go after that. So I don't mind working the hours, and I don't mind putting in the work. I don't mind learning a new industry. For my wife and for my daughter, I would do anything. And part of that's that. And I have an incredibly supportive wife. And so that, you know, that it was a great journey.
Wow. That's incredible. And it almost makes me wonder when I ask the third question, where that's going to go, because I didn't know that this was part of your repertoire. So that third question is what's coming up? What's in the pipeline for Philip? What do you got coming up that you're really excited about?
Yeah, you know, I'm excited about my family. I'm excited. I just had a daughter, you know, she's 1 now, and it's like the greatest joy of my life by far. I've got a beautiful relationship with my wife, and she's my partner in the Egg House concept. And then I have this technology company that's quote unquote a startup, and it is a startup. We've got a bunch of young people working on technology that have a dream of, you know, a better tomorrow and willing to put in the work. And the people that I work with, you know, in the restaurants and in the technology, those people are, I mean, those are real family for me. And so what's next for me is to find more of myself, right? I'm 28 years old. And a lot of my time so far, because I was involved in business at such a young age, starting at 13, you know, really full time, starting at 13 with my dad. And a lot of it is, you know, at first I wanted the money behind the business, like the entrepreneur dream of having a lot of money, you know, because our family, you know, 5th generation restaurateurs. My dad moved from America, has been bankrupt 3 times, lost everything. And I grew up through that. So my first motivation was money. And then I started working. And as I've gotten as I've gotten now, it's not just about money for me. A lot of it is about my family and my balance and the relationships that I'm building with my people. And I get the greatest joy by far out of watching other people's life elevate around me. If I buy something nice, I feel good for a week. If I help change somebody and they come from here and they're up here and I remember where they started, that does it for me. That's by far the best thing. And the more that I can do that, the better. And business success is part of that for me. But it's, what's meaningful and what's next for me is more of that, more finding that and more searching for that.
Now, did you come to that philosophy, completely separate from what your dad does or how he does things? Or was there a connection there? Did you emulate anything he does, or did you just?
Yeah, my dad and I are very different people, and we're also very similar, right? I get my entrepreneur drive from him for sure. I get my creativity from him for sure. But as far as our personal philosophies and psychology, we just come from different worlds, right? My dad's dad was a World War II veteran. He was in the Battle of Stalingrad, Russian prisoner of war for 2 years. So they didn't have a very great relationship. I'll just put it to you that way. And he searched his whole life for his approval. His entire life he was searching for his approval. So my dad was very like an egomaniac to the highest degree, right? He had a fur coat with a Rolls Royce with a pistol on his hip and a Rottweiler in his car, and he owned strip clubs and nightclubs and restaurants and gold chains, and he was just insane at my age, for sure. But for me, I had the opposite of that. I had instant approval for my dad. My dad and I moved from Austria together to here, and I've had nothing but support from him. And, I've been a partner with him really just because of the language barrier and a lot of other reasons that, that I may be talented in that he's not. And so, getting that instant approval early, I was able to kind of figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And so for me, I'm a little bit further on the path than he was at my age, just because I have the ability to look for that, right? I'm not looking for approval from my parents. So I'm looking for what makes me me, right? I get to ask myself a little deeper questions just because I have some bases already taken care of, a loving wife, a supportive parents, a business behind me that, a lot of people wonder, well, why do these people not ask those questions? Well, maybe they're worried about survival right now. When you're worried about survival, you're not thinking about these deep sort of questions. What makes me happy? You're worrying about surviving.
Right.
And also about that's true about, just your mentality. If you're worried about getting dad's approval your entire life, then you never really ask yourself, well, what's going to make me happy? What is it that I want out of my life? And so luckily I was able to ask those questions because I have the support cast around me to be able to ask those questions.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's interesting how, even though your dad had his experience with his dad that way, that he, chose to really support you and have that close relationship. So that's very cool. It's been interesting watching your company's growth over the past, almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, 2011. We opened the car wash in 2009 and then opened the restaurant in 2011. We're in 2020. So we're almost coming on 10 years with the restaurants, right?
Yeah. And I remember that little car wash with a little grill in the back,
Yeah, an impactful moment for me was one of our clients owns 50 restaurants. And I was sitting down with him and he poured me a Macallan 18. So I was like, okay, I'll sit and have the conversation, right? And so we were having a drink together and, very successful man. So I asked him, we were having conversation, everything, asked where I was from. He was from Mexico and I'm from Austria. And, he was like, oh man, one day, I don't know how he got there, but I guess because it's Europe, but he's like, one day I would love to go to Rome. And I go, I said, well, what do you mean? Why don't you go to Rome? You own 50 restaurants. Surely you can fly to Rome.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you know, I would love to, but I have my managers and my shareholders, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And I go, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 57. I go, dude, you're running out of time. I mean, go to Rome. What are you doing? Like, if that's your dream, I mean, you own 50 restaurants. Surely you have the funds to go. Do you have the funds? Yes, you do. Okay, well then go. It's like, I can't. I have to be on a plane. I have to go fly to these restaurants. I have to do this. We have investors. We have shareholders. We have this and that and the other thing. And I saw a lot of myself in that, right? I saw myself in that. And I was almost like a gift to me to see that, because that could have very well been my future, right? And that very well, you know, I could have 50 restaurants and running. You get caught into kind of a hypnotic pattern of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and driving for what, you know? And for me, that's not saying that I'm not going to expand the restaurants, but I'm certainly going to be doing it at my own pace. I'm going to be doing it with the concepts that I like. I'm going to make sure the concepts kind of feed to, you know, who I am as a person and where I'm going, that they kind of flow with my identity. Like, you'll see the new Pearland, we're doing a remodel. A lot of that's going to be a lot different in a good way, right? It's not, we're not losing the King's touch, but we're saying, okay, how do we make it a little bit more special? How do we make it, you know, something that stands out a little bit more? And for me, my life, you know, getting those people around me, like Justin now is on his way to becoming the leader of our company. You know, now he's training to be a regional to take care of all of our stores. And when I first met him, he was a server. You know,
me too.
And he's a regional now, right? Like he when he first got there, he was 17, and he was a pissy server throwing his pin around when he got a bad tip, and you know, and then he and I started growing the relationship, and he was going to school at U of H, and he didn't want to go to school, and he was like, you know, do I have a future with this company? And I go, look, I'll tell you how my entrepreneurship at U of H told me. And he was like, if you feel like you want to do something, right, you could always go back and you could go finish, or you could finish now. We'll always be here for you, right? It's a you know, you don't have to finish school at 22. You can finish school at 32, at 35, if that's a problem. It depends on what you want to do, right? Because I'm all for, like my daughter, I'm all for an education, but I'm also for whatever feels right for your timeline. Mm-hmm. And so he decided that, okay, you know, because he was just pencil whipping through school, getting a degree that he didn't give a shit about, and just moving on. And so he became manager for us, and then he became a general manager. Then he took care of our most important store, and now he's a regional. Now he's got a wife. Now he's got a kid, and he's doing a position that we, you know, that we had a 45-year-old guy do that had 30 years of experience doing, you know, a year back, and he's doing a better job at it, right? And yeah, it's incredible. Justin or any of the people that have grown with us over the years, it's incredible to see that. And like I said, that's what we get the greatest joy from by far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great stories. Philip, I want to thank you for joining us on Pipeline. I really appreciate your time, man. It's great to know the stories, and it's great to know your family and your people are doing well. You know, let's get through this together. Sure. So thank you so much.
We'll see you soon, Scott. Thank you.
Okay, and now for everybody listening, thank you so much for listening and viewing. Take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you.